Greetings, everybody. In this opportunity, we are going to review chapter number 7 of the new driver's handbook, which is called Driving Under Special Circumstances. Driving under special circumstances. In the dark, for example. In the dark, a vehicle is driving close to 90 kilometers an hour. The driver is looking directly ahead. Suddenly, he feels something hit the body of the vehicle and wonders what it could have been. Then he thinks that it might have been a small animal. The next day, he reads in the newspaper that a pedestrian was killed in a hit and run accident. The scene of the accident coincides approximately with the place where he felt something hit his vehicle, and a terrible thought comes to mind. A few days later, he goes to the police, where it is confirmed that he must be the driver who hit and killed the pedestrian. Unfortunately, this story is not fictional. It has happened in real life and could happen to anyone who doesn't have the sufficient knowledge and experience necessary to drive in the dark. The risk of an accident is higher at night because of, among other causes, our limited ability to see in the dark. Our eyes take some time to adapt to the darkness when we leave a lit room. Likewise, as we have already seen, when driving in the dark, despite not looking directly into the headlights of oncoming vehicles, it is easy for effects of temporary blindness to worsen our vision momentarily. Our ability to calculate distances depends on seeing colors and clear outlines. In the darkness, these things are blurred. The same thing happens when visibility is reduced due to fog or rain. Under these conditions, oncoming traffic appears to be further away than it really is. This can make you misinterpret distances when attempting to overtake another vehicle. When driving in the dark, your chances of detecting an obstacle depend, among other things, on the following factors: the power and adjustment of your headlights, your visual capacity, the obstacle's ability to reflect light, rain, fog, or snow, and the power of the lights of oncoming vehicles. About visibility distances, if you are driving with low beams on, you can see people or objects on dark clothing or dark colors just 25 meters far away. With light clothing, 60 meters, and with reflecting clothing, 135 meters. However, if you use high beams, you're going to see people wearing dark clothes up to 150 meters, with light clothing 300 meters, and the reflective clothing up to 450 meters. So the use of headlights. In order to see and be seen from 30 minutes after sunset until 30 minutes before sunrise, and at any time when visibility conditions require, vehicles are required to travel with lights on. Low beams on city streets, that is, those roadways with public lighting, and high beams on rural roads. However, as has been reflected by international and national experiences, it is advisable that even during the day, vehicles drive with their low beams turned on, since this makes them more visible, increasing the probability of being seen in time by pedestrians and other drivers. Motorcyclists should always drive with their lights on. On rural roads, as highways for example, even when it is not dark and visibility is not impaired by rain or other causes, you should always drive with your low beams on. Under no circumstances you should drive with your parking lights on. So the light management during encounters with other vehicles facing you. When you find yourself in the dark on a rural road with an oncoming vehicle approaching, you should change your headlights to low beams to avoid blinding the other driver. This applies to encounters with all types of vehicles. That is also for cyclists. Direct your gaze to the right side of the road ahead of the oncoming vehicle. It's not necessary to lower your high beams when you encounter pedestrians, so you can see them in a better way. Lower your high beams with enough anticipation, but not too soon. Unless one of the drivers is temporarily blinded, the lights of another, the entire space between the two vehicles should be lit. It is also important for you to lower your high beams at the time of the actual encounter in order to recover visibility of possible obstacles or pedestrians walking along the right side of the road. Move away from the right shoulder to avoid hitting an obstacle and reduce your speed, since your visibility is limited. If the road or highway is wide, you can wait longer before lowering your high beams. In other situations, the change must happen earlier, for example, when coming upon a bus or truck on a change in gradient. Their drivers are seated in a higher up place than drivers of cars. Light management while overtaking. When you come upon a vehicle ahead of you, lower your high beams so as not temporarily blind the driver through his rear view mirror. Buses and trucks have larger rear view mirrors. As a result, you should lower your high beams earlier. When overtaking, change back to high beams as soon as you are confident you will not blind the driver of the vehicle ahead of you. There may be obstacles to the left or right side of the road that you cannot see with low beams. When being overtaken, help the person who overtakes you by driving with high beams for as long as possible, until the person overtaking you appears diagonally to your left. The high beams of your vehicle should illuminate the roadway for both parties during the overtaking maneuver. When parking on a lit public street, turn on your parking lights, just in emergency cases. To make it easier to be seen by others, you can also turn on your internal lights. Always park on the right side of the road facing the same direction as traffic. If your vehicle has any kind of failure, it is important that you put emergency triangles around your vehicle as soon as possible. If the electrical system is working, turn your hazard warning flashers as well. If you lower your high beams momentarily in curves or changing gradients, you can see pedestrians or other obstacles lit by oncoming vehicles' headlights. Other vehicles' lights. When driving in the dark, it is important for you to be able to recognize, using your lights, the different types of vehicles that you may encounter. Motorized vehicles with 4 or more wheels. It will have in the front area 2 headlamps that project high and low beams, 2 parking lights, and 2 flashing turn signals. In the rear area, they will have 2 parking lights, 2 flashing turn signals, 2 backing lights, 2 fixed red lights, 2 brake lights, and 1 light for the license plate, at least. Most of vehicles have a third brake light. In cargo hauling vehicles and public transit, those kind of vehicles also have forward yellow lights on both sides and the top of the body that indicate their width and maximum height. They must also have red lights in the top corners of the rear end of the vehicle. The motorcycles and scooters. In the front area, they will have 1 headlight that projects high and low beams, along with the turn signals, and in the rear area, 1 fixed red light, the brake light, and also 2 flashing turn signals. In tricycles or bicycles, in the front part, they must have 1 light that projects forward light, and in the rear part, 1 fixed red light. Animal-drawn vehicles and handcarts. These vehicles should have a lamp on the front part of the vehicle and 1 at each side that protrudes from the structure and projects white lights forwards and red lights backwards. Be aware that all forward projected lights are white or yellow, and rear projected lights are red, with the exception of the reverse lights, which are white, and the rear turn signals, which can be red or yellow. Reflective tape is another element, although not a light, that will help us to identify other vehicles in the dark. This tape is found on the rear and side areas of cargo and other large vehicles, in addition to school transport vehicles. Warning: always be aware that bicycles and carts may not have the appropriate regulation lighting. Driving at night in public areas. When driving through a public lit urban area, you should not have your high beams on. In these areas, be aware that pedestrians, cyclists, children, or other parties may not be sufficiently visible. In addition, they act as though it were daytime, believing that they can be seen sufficiently by street lamps. Under these circumstances, it is necessary to be particularly alert, as it can be difficult to detect people in time. When loading the vehicle, a heavy load may modify the maneuverability of your vehicle. As a result, don't expect the vehicle to function the same way as you are accustomed to in normal circumstances. Acceleration will be slower and stopping distances will be longer. You will find that the vehicle veers to the side more in curves and you will need more space to overtake. With a heavy load in the rear of your vehicle, you will feel that the steering wheel is lighter and the vehicle will tend to turn more than expected. It is also possible that the headlights will be asked. With a heavy load in the front of the vehicle will tend to turn less. A roof rack or a small trailer will allow for more uniform distribution of your cargo. When placing cargo on the inside of your vehicle, do not obstruct the visual field of the rear view mirror or the rear corners. Never hold hard, pointy, or heavy objects on the rear dash, as a small crash or heavy brake can transform them into dangerous projectiles. When hauling additional cargo, the pressure and size of the tires is very important. For your safety, it is probable that the tires need more air or even that they be larger. Consult your owner's manual for more information. Check the rack restraint. Be sure that your load cannot move upon braking, turning, or accelerating, but rather is firmly secured. If you cover the load with a tarp, consider the effects of wind or speed. Do not overload the rack. Be aware of the stability of the vehicle and the strength of the roof. Driving with a trailer. The license you are preparing in this book allows you to drive a car with a light trailer, whose weight does not exceed the weight of the engine unit, and as long as the total weight does not exceed 3,500 kilograms. In general, trailers are wider than cars. Because of this, and in order to see adequately, install extra rear view mirrors in your vehicle or extend the existing side mirrors with special arms. Do not forget to remove the extra mirrors or extension arms when you disconnect the trailer. When hauling a trailer, always check your rear view mirrors. Be aware that when you are driving with a trailer, the length of the vehicle can rise up to 10 meters, more or less. So you have to be more careful when driving. About the brakes. When trailers have a hauling capacity above 750 kilos, they must have brakes, with surge brakes being the most common. With these brakes, braking occurs when the trailer pushes the car. Surge brakes can be hitched to all vehicles that have an adequate trailer hitch. Electric brakes require a hauling vehicle with a plug for electric brakes. In addition, trailers with brakes should have an emergency brake that functions automatically in case the trailer hitch breaks. About the tow ball. Always check that the trailer hitch is in good shape and the hookup is in the correct place. Load the trailer in such a way that the pressure on the tow ball is correct, For more information, consult manufacturer recommendations. When the pressure on the tow ball is low or absent, the rear part of the vehicle lifts. The pressure on the rear wheels decreases and the reach of headlights is diminished. The entire vehicle begins to snake around and the trailer can flip. However, if the pressure on the tow ball is too high, the rear of the vehicle will be pressed down. The pressure on the front wheels diminishes and the low beams can temporarily blind oncoming drivers. So before driving with a trailer, check that the load in the trailer is well distributed and the pressure on the tow ball is adequate, that the trailer is hitched correctly, that the lights and electronic brakes are plugged in correctly, that all of the lights are clean and in working order, that the trailer's parking brake is off, that the support legs and wheel are secured and bolted, that the vehicle's rear view mirrors are correctly adjusted, and that the brake system works. If the trailer starts to zigzag, to snake around, let up on the gas slowly until you recover stability, and stop to rearrange the cargo. On freeways. On freeways and highways, vehicles drive at higher speeds than other roadways. Because of this, you also have to think faster. It is especially important that you use your mirrors constantly and you are more aware of the road conditions that you might be on other roads or streets. When you are going to enter a freeway, be sure that your vehicle can reach an adequate speed and has correct tire pressure and sufficient fuel, oil, and water in order to reach at least the next service station. Verify that the windshield mirrors and lights or headlights are clean. Plan your trip. Know where you are going to get on the freeway and where you will get off. Do not use the freeway if your vehicle cannot reach a speed that will avoid putting other people at risk. To get on the freeway, there is a special lane called the acceleration lane. You should remain in this lane while you adapt your speed to the flow of the freeway and until there is a break between vehicles that allows you to enter traffic safely. Drivers already on the freeway have the right of way. If you cannot find a safe break in traffic, stop until one presents itself. Use your mirrors and double check by looking over your shoulder before leaving the acceleration lane. Once you have left the acceleration lane, stay in the right lane for as long as necessary to get used to the speed of the freeway before overtaking or changing lanes. On some freeways, the tolls are not paid conventionally, but rather there is an electronic payment system. For those systems, the bill will arrive at your home. You cannot get onto a freeway with an electronic toll system if your vehicle does not have the special device or complementary system up to date. This is the sign that informs you there is an electronic toll system in the freeway. When you're already on the freeway, if you have good visibility and road conditions are good, drive at a cruise control speed at which you can maneuver easily. Do not exceed the speed limit. Keep a reasonable and prudent distance between your vehicle and the one ahead of you. The 3-second rule is very important when traveling at high speeds. When you drive on a freeway, try to facilitate access for entering vehicles. Lighten pressure on the gas and let the entering vehicle in. Increase your speed when it's more convenient and change lanes if you can. Good, fast freeways are not only advantages. Driving on them can be monotonous, which can easily lead to sleepiness or drowsiness. To help avoid this, be sure to ventilate your vehicle well. When you feel tired or sleepy, leave the roadway and find a safe place to rest or sleep. Another risk of driving on the freeway is that after a few dozen kilometers you begin to be blinded by speed. We tend to think that our speed is lower than it really is, which makes us drive too close to those in front of us. That's why it is important to constantly check your speed by looking at the speedometer. Do not pass another vehicle unless you confirm that it's safe to do so. Use your mirrors. Remember that traffic behind you may be coming very quickly. Always signal before changing lanes. And remember, mirrors, signal, and maneuver. That's the order. Be especially careful at night when there is limited visibility, since under those circumstances it is harder to perceive distances and speeds. On freeways and highways, you should drive in the right lane when your speed is under the speed limit. You should drive in the right lane unless you are going to overtake a vehicle. You should pass other vehicles only on the left. If you pass a motorcyclist, you should leave him a safe letter space. You should not drive on the shoulder. And the traffic signs are here to protect you. Respect them, do what they indicate, and drive carefully when you are warned of hazard. Stopping and parking on the freeways. You don't have to stop on the freeway unless there is an emergency or a police officer asks you to. Do not park on the freeway, including the shoulder or on ramps. Do not pick up or drop off passengers on an on ramp or any other part of the freeway or high speed roadway. Do not walk on these roads unless you are in an emergency situation. Some or about mechanical failures. If your vehicle presents a problem, get off the freeway at next exit or a rest stop. If you cannot do so, you should try to stop near an emergency telephone. Position your vehicle on the shoulder, stopping as far as from the road as possible. Turn on your hazard warning flashers. Keep your parking lights on if it is dark or there is limited visibility. Exit the vehicle on the right hand side and ensure your passengers do the same. Be sure that your passengers wait near the vehicle but keep them away from traffic and the shoulder, and be sure that children are supervised. Walk to a telephone and call emergency services or the police. Wait near your vehicle but far away from the road and the shoulder. If you believe you are in some kind of danger, return to the vehicle. Always entering and exiting through the right hand side of the vehicle is recommended. Fasten your seatbelt while inside the vehicle in case of an impact. If you cannot get your vehicle to the shoulder, the first thing is to turn on your hazard warning flashers. Then get out of the vehicle only when it's safe to do so. If you are unsure, remain in your vehicle with your seatbelt fastened until emergency services arrive. If it is nighttime, make yourself visible wearing the reflective vest. Do not try to place a triangle or other reflective device on the freeway or do any repairs on the vehicle. Show solidarity to other motorists who find themselves in these situations. Call police. How to exit the freeway. Unless signs indicate that a lane leads directly off of the freeway, you must exit the freeway using an off-ramp on the right-hand side. Look at the informative signs about your exit and get in the right lane early. Signal to the right and reduce your speed when necessary. The acceleration lane on the freeway is distinguishable by a broken line that is wider than normal. When getting off the freeway, your speed could be higher than you think. If you're traveling at 80 kilometers an hour, it could feel as though it were 50 kilometers an hour. That is why it is important that you check your speed by looking at the speedometer. Distances of 300, 200, and 100 meters at the beginning of the deceleration lane leading of the off-ramp are marked by special signs, like the one is shown in the picture. Also, be aware that many freeway off ramps have pronounced curves, which is why it is very important to reduce your speed. Driving in tunnels. Building freeways in cities also means that these days it is more and more common to drive through long tunnels. Correct behavior inside tunnels means taking some extra precautions. For example, when you must drive through a tunnel, be sure you have enough fuel so that you will not run out of it and diminish the risk of your vehicle stopping inside the tunnel. If your lights are not on upon entering the tunnel, turn them on, even when the tunnel is well illuminated. Lights should be turned on early to avoid drivers behind you from confusing your tail lights with your brake lights. If you are wearing sunglasses, remove them. Close your windows and turn your fan or air conditioning on. Pay attention to any signs present within the tunnel. Be careful in the presence of puddles caused by drips or water leaks. If there is a traffic jam, turn on your hazard warning flashers immediately and maintain a safe distance from the vehicle ahead of you, even if you're driving slowly or stopped. Turn off the engine if traffic has stopped. If your vehicle suffers a problem, turn on your hazard warning flashers. If you cannot move your vehicle, remain inside with all other occupants with your seatbelts fastened and wait for the assistance. If you can move your vehicle, get it out of the tunnel or get as close as possible to the right hand side, ideally a place specially designed for emergencies in some tunnels. Turn off the engine and wait for help. If you require assistance, do it exclusively from a SOS telephone, since cell phones do not give information about the location of the call. Follow the instructions of tunnel employees. In case of a vehicle fire, if possible, exit the tunnel. If you cannot, move to the right and turn off the engine. Exit the vehicle immediately. Use your fire extinguisher or one available in the tunnel. And if you cannot put the fire out, ask for help using an emergency telephone. Driving in adverse weather conditions. When weather conditions are unfavorable, the first rule of safety is to ask yourself if it is absolutely necessary to use your vehicle. If you must drive, make sure the vehicle is in perfect condition. Driving in rain. Rain is an atmospheric condition that can negatively impact driving and that requires the driver to take necessary safety precautions, since the roadway becomes slippery when wet or covered in a layer of water. However, it is always with the first rain that we must be more cautious, because when water mixes with dirt or oil on the asphalt, the road becomes very slippery, especially when it rains after long periods of drought until the roadway is cleaned. This represents a serious hazard to driving safety. Reduce your speed at the first signs of water in the roadway. Under these circumstances, worn tires are incompatible with safe driving, since shallow treads do not provide as much traction and the vehicle can slip and skid. The most important effects of rain are: it reduces the traction of the tires, which is why there is danger of sliding, which is accentuated when the tires are worn. Visibility is reduced. Some measures to take to improve traction and prevent sliding. For example, frequently check your brakes while driving because when wet, they lose efficiency and it becomes important to dry them. In order to do so, without slowing significantly, step lightly and repeatedly on the brake pedal, like the pump effect, pushing and letting go. Brake slowly, progressively, and pressing the pedal in short bursts, not brusquely, because harsh braking can cause the wheels to lock and the vehicle to slide on them if they were skates. This effect doesn't occur when the vehicle has an ABS system. Increase your following distance to have in case of emergency, more room to stop. Your braking distance will be at least a double than it could be under normal conditions. So you have to reduce your speed, and this recommendation is especially important when nearing a curve on roads with layers of water, puddles, or falling leaves in order to alleviate the diminished traction of your tires. The aquaplaning or hydroplaning. When rain is very intense, a film or layer of water comes between the road and the tires, making it difficult to keep traction. When the layer of water on the road is more than the tires can displace using treads, the following occurs. Water accumulates in front of the wheels, tires lose traction and contract with the road, the vehicle slides, glides, and moves without making contact with the road surface. The driver loses control over the vehicle, the steering and brakes do not respond to driver commands, the vehicle seems to float. This phenomenon is commonly known as aquaplaning or hydroplaning. At high speeds, more water must be displaced by the tires and more water accumulates beneath them, which can saturate the treads. Because of this, in order to avoid aquaplaning, the best advice is to moderate your speed so that the tires can displace the water well and keep contact with the ground, avoiding braking and accelerating. When there are puddles on the road, avoid driving over them, either placing them between your wheels or to one side, if doing so is possible and not risky. Moderate your speed. When it's not possible to avoid puddles, you must drive over them with the wheels on one side of the vehicle. Reduce your speed so that the vehicle does not lose stability. This way you will also avoid splashing other cars with water, which can affect their visibility. When the road is flooded, if you have no alternative and must drive through a flooded section, drive slowly in the first gear and in a constant speed. When you exit the water, before returning to the advisable speed given the conditions, check your brakes, stepping lightly on the brake pedal. If they do not brake well, dry them by slowly braking. Measures you must take to improve visibility. For example, in rain, it reduces visibility not only because there is less light but also because the windshield and the side and rear windows are covered with these water drops, in some cases even with flakes or mud, and on the inside the windows fog up. Also, the rear view mirrors are the lights are affected. To improve visibility, keep the windshield, the back window, and all your lights clean. If necessary, stop to clean them. Turn on the windshield wipers and the back wiper if your vehicle has one. Use windshield washers when necessary. For better cleaning, adding a little soap to the windshield wiper fluid is recommended. Eliminate the vapor on the inside of the windshield using the heating and air conditioning system directed towards the windshield and activate the rear window defrost. Make yourself more visible to others. Turn on your lights. To drive through snow. When the first flakes of snow fall, driving is as dangerous as during the first rain, because when the snow mixes with dirt, oil, and other debris and then vehicles drive over it, a layer of mud forms that transforms the pavement into a very slippery road. When the snow is soft and recently fallen, it creates a light layer that slowly melts, causing the road to become slippery. Snow reduces the traction of the tires, diminishes contact, and as a result, there is a danger of sliding. Also, when it is snowing, visibility is reduced. When snow freezes or has been on the road for a time and has become hard and packed, its effects are similar to those of ice. Measures you should take to improve traction and prevent sliding on snow. As a general rule, when there is snow, drive slowly and gently, as if in slow motion, without moving the steering wheel or changing gears suddenly. The brakes, the gas pedal, the clutch, the gear shift, and the steering wheel should be used delicately and softly. Check the efficiency of your brakes frequently by pressing them. Increase your safe following distance from the vehicle ahead of you. On a slippery pavement, your stopping distance is much longer than under normal conditions. Use chains on the drive wheels. At times, some of the snow the tires displace sticks to the mud flaps. Remove it as many times as is necessary. Follow the tracks left by other vehicles. Careful not to damage the undercarriage of your vehicle with the mounds that accumulate at the center. Do not overtake. Go up hills slowly and at continuous speed, because when you try to make up for lost speed, it can cause sliding or skidding of the drive wheels, and then if the vehicle stops, it will be very difficult to start driving again. Use the highest gear you can reasonably manage, as this way you will achieve the minimum increase in speed of the drive wheels and the risk of sliding will be reduced. Avoid changing gears. Go down hills slowly, at a moderate speed, and in a low gear. Slow using gears, only using brakes when absolutely necessary, softly and early to avoid skidding. When entering a curve, do so at speed that does not require you to brake in the curve, because the front wheels have a high probability of locking if you brake while turning the steering wheel. At sunset, when the sun and temperature go down, the snow on the road starts to freeze quickly, forming a very dangerous thin layer of frosts. If it gets late before you head home, you must be extremely cautious and pay attention to the changes in shine of the snow. Where there is more shine, it is harder, and there might be ice. Some measures to take to improve visibility. When snow accumulates on the windshield side and rear windows, your view of the road and surroundings will be diminished. At the same time, you will be less visible to other drivers. To compensate for reduced visibility, use the windshield wipers and, if your vehicle has one, the rear wiper. Wash the windshield as often as necessary to help melt the snow. However, if the temperature is below zero, the water squirted onto the windshield can freeze, forming a layer of ice on the windshield and defeating the purpose of washing the windows. It is essential to add antifreeze to the windshield washing liquid. Because your windshield wipers cannot clean the entire surface of the windshield, stop as many times as necessary to remove snow from the windshield, windows, and lights. Even at night, it is not recommended to use high beams, as light does not cut through the curtain of snowflakes. The light is reflected back at the driver and you could be temporarily blinded. If it is snowing and your vehicle has fog lights, turn them on. Sometimes after the snow, the sun comes out and the bright of solar rays on the snow can be bothersome and even damage your sight. To avoid this, protect yourself using tinted sunglasses that prevent direct incorporation of intense light into your eyes. About driving in ice. Ice is very dangerous because it makes the road very slippery and turns it into an ice rink where prudence, skill, and driver reflexes are tested, so you should take extreme precautions. Ice reduces, if not eliminates, traction, causing a severe risk of sliding. When and where is a road most likely slippery? On cold and wet days, shadows on the road made by trees can hide icy parts on the road from view. The parts of the road in the shade are the first to freeze and the last to defrost and dry. Bridges can also conceal frozen areas. Their surfaces tend to freeze far before the rest of the road. If you notice that steering becomes excessively light, as floating for example, you should be aware and reduce speed. You can also verify if there is ice on the road without putting yourself at risk by braking softly while driving slowly. Measures you should take to improve traction and prevent sliding. The aforementioned about the snow is equally applicable to when driving on icy roads. It is important to highlight that when the road is icy, the braking distance can increase up to 10 times over normal, which is why you must drive at greater distance from the vehicle ahead of you and reduce your speed, avoiding braking and accelerating. As a general rule, keep in mind that there is nothing that will allow you to drive on ice or snow in safety conditions that are even close to those that occur on dry and clean pavement. However, traction can be improved by using special tires or driving with chains in the tires. About driving with fog. Fog reduces visibility, and when it's very thick, it practically eliminates visibility. Also, it reduces tire traction when the pavement is wet, and as a result, there is a risk of sliding similar to when it starts to rain. Fog requires calm and that you not try to see more than can be really seen. Some measures you could take to improve visibility and traction. For example, the aforementioned about rain and snow can also be applied to fog. Also, it stands to note that if it is important to see, it also important for you to be seen by other drivers in time. So, keep your low beams on because they project directly to the ground and you can see more and better. It is not advisable to use high beams as they are parallel to the road and small droplets of water and suspended particles cannot be penetrated, instead reflecting the light like a mirror. If your vehicle has forward fog lights, use them in addition to the low beams. Rear fog lights are very important to be seen by drivers behind you, but you should use them only when the fog is thick, as they could cause vision problems for other drivers. Increase your safe following distance. You will have more space to react in case the driver in front of you brakes, and because of the reduced visibility, the maneuvers get unexpectedly soon. Reduce your speed not only to improve traction and prevent sliding, but especially to be able to stop the vehicle within the visible area ahead of you. Do not overtake vehicles if visibility is reduced that you cannot see ahead. Pay special attention to road surface markings. Longitudinal center or side lanes will be very helpful in seeing the path to be followed. If it's dangerous to drive in the fog, stopping on the road is also dangerous because the reduced visibility can cause an accident. So try not to stop. About high winds. High winds, especially on mountain roads, when they blow side to side, are another risk for driving since they can cause you to leave the roadway or can overturn the vehicle. So, some measures you can take: reducing your speed. The stronger the wind, the lower gear you should use. This way, the weight of the vehicle helps to keep it secured. And correct the deviations to correct your trajectory. To do this, hold the steering wheel firmly and turn it against the wind. Gusts of wind worsen the problem. Drive with extreme caution and be alert so as to avoid possible deviations from the road. And that's the end of driving under special circumstances. Thank you very much.